Yes, it's time to get spooked as we ask our next studio guest to reflect on this key question. And with so many roles and many pieces and parts to manage, how really do B2B modern marketers of today avoid turning this all into a Frankenstein's monster?
Let's find out.
Well, hello, and welcome to the B2B horror story. I have to say, it's not necessarily a horror story. It's all about the fact that the sum of the parts of B2B is made up of a relatively expanding number of roles. And our first guest, who you're going to see coming in now, I think knows all about that. Then again, maybe you won't, because he's very shy. He's had to come a long way, all the way from the 30s. And there he is. Come on in, my friend. This is our production assistant. He's just going to guide him to set up his Zoom call. But as I say, he is somebody who knows a lot about the dangers of being randomly put together. And he's going to talk us through some of the issues he thinks B2B marketers can avoid. His name, in case you don't know, is... well, he's Frankenstein's monster, but his real name is actually Thomas Frankenstein. Not a lot of people know that. Go and sit down. If he just sits down, I can... anyway, come on, sit down, Thomas. You persistent going. And we should get the Zoom. I see Zoom's lined up. Should be on our camera in any moment. Anyway, Thomas there is joined, and I have to say, in the studio, we have Matt Dulles, who is another amazing guest. You're a bit younger than Thomas, but you're obviously, well, you're not obviously, but you're Vice President of Marketing and IoT at Lexmark, that's correct?
Yes, correct.
So welcome.
Thank you.
And zooming in, we have Mette Monk, who's a group brand design and digital communication person at Danfoss. So thanks for joining us. Obviously, our friend from the 30s has a bit of a story, because obviously not a lot of people knew he was Thomas Frankenstein. And as life went on, it came shortened. First name was shortened to Tom. And any Frankenstein, what was that shortened to?
Stein?
No.
Oh.
Of course not. So obviously, it was Tom Frank. But anyway, Mette, I love your job title, because you are, as I said, brand, design, digital communications person at Danfoss. And so in many ways, your title does sort of expose the fact that marketers are expected to cover a multitude of sins. So can you just sort of fill us in, how do you actually get consistency across all these roles?
I'm actually super happy that you invite me here because of my title, and not because you think that I could go very well along with the Frankenstein's monster. So thanks for that, first of all. But yes, it is many different hats that I have to wear on my daily job, but I think that's also what makes it so magnificent.
Yeah, but before we sort of get into sort of your own, how you juggle all these different roles, Danfoss, obviously we've got COP27 taking place in Egypt at the moment. Danfoss is a company that really does prove that marketers can change the world, because engineering can change the world. But can you just remind us what Danfoss is?
Yeah, Danfoss is an industrial company. We are a global company founded nearly 90 years ago in Denmark, but we now have operations across the world doing solutions for energy efficiency. So talking about sustainability and some of these issues is really at the heart of everything we do, because one thing is what we do ourselves, but the impact that our products have in the world is what can drive this green transition that we see is super crucial all over the world. And speaking of COP27, I have several colleagues there on site to discuss with the policymakers and so on.
Yeah, and you obviously because obviously it's an engineering business, but obviously purpose has become very close to what you do.
Yeah, indeed, and we have a strong purpose, and it's very well rooted in our DNA. But when I talk to peers in other and maybe younger companies than ours, where you have to maybe evolve a purpose, then it's a different story. But we have a strong purpose driven around doing an impact in the world. We have it as our payoff, where we say we engineer tomorrow to build a better future.
Yeah, which is a great line. But the interesting thing is, it's amazing just how much the industry has evolved, isn't it? So on one hand, marketers maybe 25 years ago would have been obsessed with just trade marketing, lead gen. This sort of agenda of saving the world is relatively new.
How
have you seen your role change?
I'd say that over the last 5 years or so, we have seen it moving dramatically in our part of the business, from going from being a brand where we were measured on how we had an impact on sales directly. So it's all the way from branding to lead generation and everything in between in this role. But now we are much more measured on if people are in the various stakeholder groups understands our purpose and the impact that we as a company have in the world with the products that we do produce and engineer.
Yeah, but obviously you're covering brand, design, digital communications. Is there any one aspect of that which is more important than the other?
I'd say the core narrative, the brand narrative, is the anchor point in everything we do, because our digital communication, if that is not consistent and true to our purpose, then we do not come across as a reliable brand, and that is crucial for us in the operations that we do, both with our customers, but also when, for example, policymakers have to believe in us and do business with us on events like COP27, or we have a close collaboration with IEA that we partnered up with earlier this year. So I'd say that the core narrative, and that we can roll that out across our entire organization, because asking 45,000 people to tell the same story is hard, but making sure that the substance and the core narrative in what they say is consistent. That is, I would say, the most important part of my job. And then, of course, the platforms that we bring it to the right audiences and target it is certainly very, very important.
Yeah, I suppose then, to avoid becoming a monster, you focus on that core message, and then you make sure that's the sort of thread that runs through all your activities. Is that fair? Yeah,
indeed. And then, of course, design is not. It shouldn't be perceived as because I didn't mention it, that as a stepchild or anything. It is super important, but that is also what enables us to communicate consistently and have like the red thread and making our communication recognizable in other terms than just the words and the tone of voice.
And there's also been a fragmentation, hasn't there, in terms of the options that are available for communications, events, social media, content marketing, all those things. How are you coping with that?
I'd say we have a much broader variety of channels now, but again, ensuring that we have a consistent story across the platforms is what really enables us to steer across all the channels. I'd say for the last couple of years with COVID and so on, of course, we have moved a lot from physical events to digital events. But a month ago, I went to London to the first physical event that I have attended together with customers for years, actually, and having the opportunity to use that as a channel again, where we meet face to face, is I don't think it's dead because we have learned something new throughout the COVID period. I see much more that we have a good hybrid solution between the digital channels on one hand, but also the physical touch points that are still super, super important, because we're talking to people. And not just through digital channels. So that interaction and getting some feedback on both our narrative, but also the messaging that we work with is crucial for us. So it was great to be back in real life.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I'm sorry I can't be there in real life today.
I know the irony of having a conversation about real life over Zoom.
Yeah.
But I sort of, it's interesting because I actually quite enjoyed the rise of hybrid events as the birth of this pop-up TV model. And although I think in-person will have a role going forward, do you think you'll be putting as much emphasis on things like trade shows, in-person events and all these things?
If I only had a crystal ball, then it would be much easier to do my budget for 2023. But will we put the same emphasis? I think we will select harder, and what we do, we will do 100%. I think we have limited our travels dramatically, but we see that still our business segments, I'm responsible for like corporate branding and the overall branding of the Enphas and narrative. But within our business segments, the trade shows and trade fairs are still relevant. But again, we see a huge variation between our three business segments.
And are you good at doing homework?
Depends.
Because before this sort of panel session, we sort of asked you to give us a headline that summed up B2B. And if you haven't done it,
I have.
I can move. You have? Well done, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well,
I have
so what's your headline?
Reclaiming the strategic ground from branding to lead generation and everything in between. So it's a rather long headline. It wouldn't fit for SoMe, right?
Well, you might not get a job working in a British tabloid. But it's good. Maybe we should ask Frank for his headline. You there, Frank? Oh, what? Have you done your homework, Frank? Have you? Maybe not. Matt, maybe we should go to you. Have you got a headline that?
Yeah. So the headline could be something appropriate for Horse Show, but the return of the 4 Ps in marketing. So I think even the discussion that we've had today, marketing oftentimes becomes overly focused on the promotion side of the 4P mix, being product, price, place, and promotion. And I think that the times have brought other roles to the leaders of the marketing organization that require some thought.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear the 4 Ps back.
Yeah.
That when I joined the business, obviously in the early 2000s. 4 Ps was all the rage, but now I think people tend to regard marketing as being about promotion.
Yeah.
You think that's fair, Meti? There's always promotion when they talk about marketing. But, and we were discussing this in advance of the show, you're making the point that this pressure marketers are under to work across much more things.
Yeah.
Is actually get them involved in much more of the processes.
Absolutely. So when you think about the risk we have in Frankensteining an organization in a time of tremendous change at a really rapid rate, going back to kind of the academics of the 4 Ps and the role that they play. So I think in terms of portfolio rather than product, because there's more to an offering and the engagement with your customer than just the product itself. Certainly pricing strategies are altering as businesses operate from just traditional purchases to e-commerce or even subscription. Place, I think of path to market, and there's a restacking of the value chain in many industries. And then the promotion, the way that we're engaging with our customers, it was changing at a rapid pace before, but the pandemic kind of restacked the way we want to engage. So in order to make changes within an organization that doesn't cause a Frankenstein organization, I think it's important to make sure that all 4 Ps are aligned in the strategy. Otherwise, you run the risk of having 3 of the 4 align and something just off track, and then things won't go well.
Yeah, but there is a common thread running through everything, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of, as well as a single proposition of a USP. But in terms of marketers now, there is a sort of a common thread that runs through all their activities.
Yeah, so certainly if you can get a line behind each element of the 4 Ps, and certainly in our organization, we've actually centralized it. The marketing organization has accountability for all 4 Ps. So in my organization, I'm responsible for the portfolio as well. We design the pricing strategies we want to take to market. We consult with the sales organization and our partners to ensure that we understand path to market and lock off on a plan there, and then ultimately align a promotion plan there.
Yeah.
So it's a broad remit.
Yeah, but the other thing, of course, is data, isn't it? I mean, the
Data, yeah.
amount of insights you get really allows you to, have a view in every aspect of business.
Sure.
How the product, what people are demanding.
That's right, the digital thread. So most of us were involved in digital transformation prior to the beginning of the pandemic, and that ultimately is making sure that all functions of the business are feeding data that they can collect into a single thread of data, the digital thread, that provide us a common understanding of the data, allow us common visibility, and ultimately can work on the same problems. And by democratizing that data, it can bring players to the table within the business that maybe can share insights that we hadn't seen before, and ultimately deliver a better product to the end user.
Yeah, and could you just tell us a bit more about Lexmark then? Obviously, you're in the imaging business.
Yeah, so core business, we've been around since the 50s, in fact, in the imaging business. So traditionally, we would sell office equipment, print, copy, fax, and scan, both to the enterprise and to the small business. Over time, we learned that we absolutely have to have world-class hardware in order to compete. But when we engage with our customers to understand why they selected Lexmark and the true value that we delivered, it was more than just the product itself. It was our ability to use what we call our Insights to Actions platform, which is essentially an IoT platform that allows us to connect to what is millions of devices deployed in the field, gather sensor detail regarding the performance of the device, the usage of the users, the workflows that they support, and assemble that data in order to drive insights and ultimately actions for the client. So in most cases, they want the device to perform its desired function, print, copy, fax, and scan, and support the workflow, absolutely. But what they want is it to never stop. You can't interrupt a business because if a device goes down. If we can gather the insights that allow us to take proactive and sometimes predictive action, those devices don't go down and we can increase uptime. And we realized it's that platform that we've built over the last decade that really defined the differentiation that we bring to the market. So we've really started to redefine our business from certainly being an imaging business, but the differentiation is driven by this Insights to Actions platform that we can deliver. Today, it's deployed connected to imaging devices, but we've expanded our business to think of what are other businesses that are trying or need a platform such as this to connect their distributed connected devices so they can bring the same type of value to their client base.
Yeah, because it's interesting. So basically, these marketing insights have allowed you to develop an entirely new business category, which is IoT, and a lot of people buying into that have nothing to do with imaging.
That's right. That's right. So we've let the customer decide what value that we're delivering and what we need. They let us into this business. They helped us understand that that's the true value, and ultimately we let that guidance change the direction we were heading in our offering. We'll continue to deliver the value we have. The imaging space is still critical to business process, but we think we can add a whole new dimension to what we bring to our clients.
Yeah, and did you, can you give us an example then of the sort of companies using this?
Yeah, so for example, they're in the United States, there's a medical device manufacturer, in this case, their division makes X-ray or imaging equipment for dental offices. And they share a lot of the same properties that we see with imaging devices in that they're deployed across distributed locations all through the US, and they are business critical for the dental offices. If these imaging devices go down, the practice goes down. So they have interest in leveraging a platform, not reinventing the wheel, taking a platform that we've already developed through decades of use and millions of connected devices supported today to connect their imaging equipment so they can do the same thing, collect sensor equipment so they can understand the uptime and the performance of those X-ray machines, predict a failure before it happens to ensure that the dental practice stays up and running.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a very similar use case deployed in a very different way and adds tremendous value and ultimately will help them reshape their business from a product business selling imaging equipment for dental practices to delivering a service that supports these dental practices.
So if this show wasn't scary enough, here we are now talking about dentistry.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but Mette, do you recognise these sort of trends where the sort of the data insights now available to marketers really can help create brand new business categories?
Indeed, yes, and we are looking very much into service as a business model as well, like you just talked upon, Matt. We're not good enough at it yet, but we are doing a lot in digital transformation, and especially the insights that we get of our products in use helps us as marketeers. One thing is the engineers developing on the next generation of the products and so on. But as marketeers, we can much easier build around this value proposition and a different value that we suddenly deliver to the customers, just like we just heard. So definitely we see that as well.
Yeah. One of the big trends we are seeing now is a sort of convergence across disciplines, which is causing a lot of confusion. I mean, even it's very hard to know when the marketing really starts and stops. Sometimes I think the marketing is effective with the entire business.
That's right.
But have you any views about actually where is there a boundary between the marketing and the rest of the C-suite now?
So I think it's difficult to identify the boundaries, so collaboration within the functions is essential. So in our organization, to provide some clarity, we do hold the accountability for the full marketing mix, all 4 Ps, within our team, but we can't operate within a silo. So in order to implement a proper pricing strategy, we absolutely need to engage with our finance teams to make sure that we understand business model constraints that we might have. We need to engage with the IT team because ultimately pricing is a function of a transaction that needs to be supported by our teams. You need to engage across all functions. And what I would say is it's important to have somebody accountable for these functions. But that doesn't mean you run off and deliver on your own. You still need to coordinate across all functions in order to be successful.
Yeah. What are your views, Mette? In your organisation, is there a clear demarcation line between your team and the rest of the company?
Yeah. We talking about breaking down silos. That's kind of what I repeat every day. So I'm fully on that one. But we also see that it is some other colleagues or different colleagues that we work with now, going from working very closely with sales and the insights that we got from the sales organization previously, moving over to that public affairs and the data teams are some of those who can predict the future a little bit better on how we look at what lies next and what are the trends around us in the world compared to what we sold last month or last year. So in that, I see a big change, and other functions of the company that we work much closer with. But definitely also in terms of the collaboration with IT, where are the boundaries there between IT kind of owning and the technical side of the platform, and us owning the content that's put on the platforms. That is where we need to have a joint objective and a joint purpose of what it is that we need to do. And hence, I think what did you start the question off? If how is it in the C-suite? We need to work as a part of the business strategy. We can't run as a train next to everything else, or just come up with creative ideas that are not rooted in the core business, because we will never get traction on that across the organization. So being part of the core strategic, but that was also why my headline was reclaiming the strategic ground, because that is where we need to go from a service function or an execution function into a more strategic partner to everyone in the organization.
Yeah.
Actually,
is it worth getting Frank's view on all this? Frank, are you there? Well, maybe Frank, can you tell us about your views on dentistry? God, he's still not saying much. He's a great guest, though, because he can keep. He doesn't sort of talk the show away. But Frank, looking at Frank, should we look at some horror stories? Because I did sort of decide to sort of see if there's any horror stories in the world of advertising, which there are, obviously. I wanted to show you some examples just to get your views. I did look hard. I didn't find any B2B examples. Obviously not. But I thought we could maybe sort of show you this ad. This is from Donald Trump, actually. It's a product from Donald Trump, first of all. And there we are. It was, I think it was basically a Monopoly game launched by Donald Trump a few years ago, failed, relaunched, failed again. But do you think there's a chance of this game making a comeback?
Oh, boy. At the risk of beginning a broader discussion, I'll pass on that.
Well, I'll move on. I want you to act because it's topical, but we won't get into midterms right now. But the other one, which was seemed like a really interesting idea, was this one here: Bic disposable pants, real product. Bic disposable pants. Would you buy that product? Matt, you do like the sort of person who might need disposable pants occasionally.
Yeah, I think I'd go ahead and pass on that. Just a hard pass.
Yeah. But I suppose when people come up with these concepts, there must be a sort of rationale to it. And I suppose it's a danger when you've got the wrong insights or the wrong data, you just sort of take the brand in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's right. So you run the risk of, I think we all want to be data-driven organizations. At the same time, I think you need to take where the data guides you and then bounce off of other elements about your business that are essential. So what unique or differentiating capability you bring to the market? What are the outcomes that you can affect for your clients, and do you have a right to participate in that market? So I think if those offerings would have been bounced against some of those questions, they probably would have never made it through the product filter.
And I think the last one I've got to show you, that's very true for as well. Let's look at this great product, Colgate beef lasagna. And actually, Colgate did actually go into the TV dinners market. Goodness only knows what. Even if you're going into sort of a confectionery, you can get Logic. It'll kill your teeth, and then we can brush some of their product.
Yeah, fresh breath after your garlic Italian, I guess. So.
Yeah. Meti, have you? I suppose it's a good question, but after seeing our lasagna, but what's your key takeaways? What? There's one thought you'd like people to take away from this session. What would it be?
Oh, I say beef lasagna. It just kind of derailed my thoughts. But a key takeaway, I'd say that we have to focus, be strategic, and break down the silos. That would be the three things that I remember.
Yeah, it's a good thought, and that's why you will not be launching like smart lasagna.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
What would your
I would agree. I would fully endorse focus. I think that when you think about one of the biggest challenges that we have as marketeers, we've talked about a lot of things that we can do. The question is, what should we do? And what I would say, make sure that you work on a 3 to 5 year long-term plan to make sure that the near-term plan is heading in the proper direction. And when you think of focus, it's one of the hardest things to do because it's not just determining what to do, but what not to do. At the end of the day, you will be successful in the areas where you focus.
That's great. And with that focus, I think it's a good place to end because we are out of time. I should sort of say big thanks to Frank for coming back from the 30s for us. Meti, Matt, thanks so much for your insights. And obviously thanks to you for watching the horror show. I trust it wasn't too scary. But remember, if you're watching this on live stream, congratulations, good decision. But if you're not watching live stream, just a reminder that as well as this, there's lots of other amazing B2B content on the Drum Player. So all that remains for me to do now is wish everybody a very happy afternoon. Goodbye.
Concept of a doctor grandparent was already there. We originally were looking to form intergenerational face-to-face visits within the local community. However, with the pandemic, given that everybody understands how to have a video call, we recognized the opportunity to turn a doctor grandparent into a wide-ranging virtual campaign. This campaign was delivered on behalf of our client CHD Living, who are a care home group in Southwest London, and they look after around 800 recipients of care. The campaign sought to connect CHD Living's residents with volunteers all around the world. And given that CHD Living's residents were suffering from loneliness and isolation, we really wanted to form our strategy around encouraging people to make meaningful intergenerational relationships and connecting the grandparents and the grandchildren with similar interests. We even formed international pairings, which was just amazing to see. So for us, being able to pull together this campaign was so rewarding. And the coverage that we achieved for our client, where we had over 1,200 pieces of coverage around the globe, and it was just an amazing campaign to work on. So the initial problem for us was that care was in the spotlight. News headlines were focusing on care deaths and the vulnerability of residents. People were scared of care homes. From a relative's perspective, you didn't want to put your loved ones into a care home, and it just sounded very chaotic, and that care homes were unfortunately a scary place to be. So with a doctor grandparent, we wanted to counteract that and project a more positive image that really reflected an accurate picture. Most care homes at the time were doing a great job of keeping residents safe. But even, within this, care residents were still isolated. They were losing connections with the outside world. And with CHD Living, we wanted to bring that back. So the campaign performed exceptionally well. From when we initially launched the concept, it immediately took off. We had more than 28,000 virtual volunteers within just 2 weeks. We carried on pushing, highlighting the number of signups, and each time we were slowly getting more and more volunteers that were signing up. We then decided to launch internationally to try and encourage volunteers from across the pond, if you like, around the world to sign up to adopt a CHD living grandparent. So thinking about how Adopt a Grandparent has changed over time, we're now developing an app to open up Adopt a Grandparent to other care homes, initially in the UK, but we want to open it up to care homes all around the world so they can pair their lonely, their isolated and vulnerable elderly residents with our volunteers.
A Surrey-based care home group has launched a campaign to provide their elderly residents with companionship. This is a wonderful idea.
Anna Stewart reports on the Adopt a Grandparent programme, which is making life a lot less lonely for some very important people.
CHD care homes in Surrey were using the portal before the crisis on a project called Adopt a Grandparent.
One nursing home in London is starting a campaign called Adopt a Grandparent. The program aims to have people around the world become a virtual volunteer who will engage with their assigned grandparents through video calls.
And it's adopting a grandparent through CHD living in the UK. And my grandparent is Iris. She is amazing. I speak to her every single week. And yeah.
To celebrate and promote our range of Australian Audible original titles, Audible partnered with Twitch to tap into the heart of the Twitch experience, transforming audiobook and podcast listening from a solo activity to an interactive community experience. Our starting point was our terrific audio storytelling, and we were excited to work with Twitch creators who took our Audible originals to new levels.
Twitch is home to 1.85 billion hours of live video content every single month, and it's filled with an audience who loves good storytelling and entertainment. But curling up with a good book or a podcast is usually a solo thing. And so we strive to change that with the Audible Live Club by transforming this personal experience of listening into a great story with an interactive community moment on Twitch.
Welcome back to B2B World Fest TV, where we are live streaming hours of content to you from London in our fabulous studio with our fabulous studio audience. So Craig, you obviously work with a lot of B2B brands, of course, it goes without saying. So what do you think so far? Anything that you've picked up?
I love the fact that my business partner, Tom Stein's name is actually Frankenstein. That's number one.
There goes your promotion.
A few key bullets. C-suite strategy. This resonates with all conversations globally with B2B marketers out there, which we come into contact with. C-suite strategy, short-term and long-term, tick. Breaking silos, still a job to do. The integration of products and pricing, brilliant. Platform integration with insights and data, that is what drives the customer experience and enables it.
Wow, you sound
Bang
as if
on.
you're pretty good at what you do.
I don't know about that. I just listen a lot. Got good ears.
Well, we have now come to our final show of the day. Wow, how quickly has that come round? As a reminder, we are engaging with viewers around the world through our hashtag B2B World Fest. So don't be shy, keep your thoughts coming in, because you're going to read every single one, aren't you?
Yeah, I am,
Do your
definitely.
due diligence.
Definitely.
Good. I now hand you over to Stein IS's co-chief creative officer and World Fest mainstay for 3 years running. Oh my goodness, he's a glutton for punishment. Yeah. Well, it is the one and only Ruben Webb. And Ruben will host a show on how a full-on commitment to creativity is supercharging B2B effectiveness. How do you think he'll do?
Better than the previous 2 years.
Okay, go for it, Ruben.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Is there a drum? Is there a drummer in the room? Hello, everybody. And welcome to our session on creativity called The Big Commit.
Ivan, can I go in?
Just for you to know, I need another mic. I hope it wasn't me that broke the last one. Right, okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our session on creativity called The Big Commit. Are we good? So I'm joined today by Sarah Higgins, who is the Managing Director, Spider, State Street Global Advisors. There, I got it out. There we are, brilliant. We're over the hump. And Isla. Oh no, it's a very Tom Stein-esque Isla Mackenzie today. Isla sends her apologies for not being here. And Tom Stein needs no introduction, I'm sure, but he's the chairman and chief growth officer at Stein IES. Okay, so the topic we'll be discussing today is the level of commitment you need to do the very best B2B creative work. And the very best B2B creative work featured this year largely at Cannes, because it was the first year that they had the B2B Lions. And both Sarah and Tom were privileged enough to be on the jury, the inaugural jury of the B2B Lions. So we're in very good company and we have great authority here on what it takes. And they also, I'm hoping, will give us some real insider insight into the goings-on of the jury, the wranglings, the arguments, the fights, and let us know how they came to the decisions that they did. Okay. So one of the interesting things that they were using to judge the awards, first slide please, was the Creative Effectiveness Ladder. So the Creative Effectiveness Ladder is brought to us by the B2B Institute Lions and Walk. And without going too deeply into it, the jury, I have it on very good authority, were encouraged to look for work and recognise work that was having the potential or actually demonstrating an ability to be a strategic asset for the business. Okay, so, and if you thought the 4 Ps were back, well, I'll tell you what, the 5 Cs, the brand new 5 Cs are in. Can we see the next slide, please? Because as marketers, we love to make lists of features of things, beginning with the letter C or P. And here's the 5 Cs on which we have decided that these are the features that a Cannes winning piece of creativity must have, having examined many of them. So that is commercial impact, that is craft, levels of production, that is commitment, and that's many dimensions of commitment that we'll probably get into here today, but not least the commitment of the whole business rather than just the marketing department or an agency. Then clarity, something that doesn't just resonate with the audience the work's aimed at, but resonates with any human being that understands what it means to be a person on this planet. And of course, change. Either change in the context of an industry or change in the context of society. So those are the things that we'll be discussing around some pieces of work that we're about to look at. And so let's jump into Sarah's choice. We wanted to look at Sherwin-Williams speaking in colour. So let's play the case film and then let's have a chat about it.
Our world is filled with colour. In fact, the human eye can detect over 1 million of them. Yet colour is more than what we see. Informed by our unique experiences, colour means something different to each of us. So how do you find that one colour? The one that you, and only you, can see. Introducing Speaking in Colour from Sherwin-Williams, a global leader in colour coatings that is redefining how human and intuitive the colour experience can be. The first ever AI colour system is designed to help architects and like-minded visionaries find colours based on personal inspiration. All they have to do is say the words.
Let's try crystal clear Caribbean Ocean. Yeah, that's it.
Speaking in Colour is voice activated and instantly analyzes millions of images via a search algorithm and optical recognition technology to create a personalized colour palette. Through conversation and the intuitive power of AI, users easily discover,
maybe that's too blue. Let's lighten it up just a little bit.
Refine.
I like that. Let's add a little bit more green.
And find their 1 in a million colour.
I love it. That's perfect.
But that's just the beginning.
Let's see the colors from the art district in Miami.
Snow Canyon, Utah.
Sparkly and champagne at sunset. Let's get some more mossy greens in there, something really rich.
I like what I'm seeing, but I want more gray than blue.
Okay, let's make it pop.
That is it.
The more people speak, the more we hear. As a result, Speaking in Colour is providing insights into cultural and geographical influences of individual hues to create the largest data set of colour attribution in the world. Inspired by human experience, Sherwin-Williams is redefining how people connect with colour, making it possible to find the impossible, the 1 in a million. Now tell us, what inspires you?
So, amazing work, a fantastic achievement, and so Sarah, can you tell us why this was given the Grand Prix out of some fantastic work, and then tell us anything you'd like to about why you admire it.
Of course, thank you so much. So, as you say, won the Grand Prix. Lots of amazing work in the category and lots of less amazing work as well, if we're honest about it. What I particularly loved about this campaign was kind of 3 things, to go back to your C's a little bit. The commitment was obviously huge. So if you're putting together a piece of technology that's an original bit of AI, that's going to take a long time to build the code, to sell in the idea, to the quantum of data to make it work is massive behind the intuitive kind of result. And so the minute we saw this, all of us went home and went, sounds good, let's try it out. Gave it to our kids, gave it to anyone we could just to test it. But that takes a long time to commit, into the development phase. What if it doesn't work, right? So that was the retrospective bit, but also the forward-looking commitment I thought was interesting, because obviously this product then will continue to evolve and grow over time and it will become more sophisticated, more nuanced. So I could really see the long-term execution and how that would evolve over time. And I think a theme that came across with a lot of the work was, is it built to live or built to die? Is this a one-off flash in the pan? Or is this something that can really be, to your point, a strategic asset for the business? And if it can continue to organically develop by itself, then clearly that's going to give a competitive edge. Building on that a little bit, the other point was you talked about culture a little bit. And I guess what excited me about seeing this is I work at a US firm, but I'm based in London, and I'm accountable for the other half of the world, I guess. And I love to see anything that can have, be globally consistent but locally relevant. And mass customize is a really hard thing for any marketer to deliver. How do you make this global product or global idea super relevant to a local audience, which has a completely different and distinct culture? This piece about the Miami Art District really struck me, because we talked a lot about actually the colour red when we were going through this and the background brief. And, red means a different thing in Chicago to what it means in Mumbai. People use different language, the shades are different. So I could really see how in the future as a business you could create incredibly bespoke and nuanced suites of colour that are completely relevant to the market but allow this firm to grow and succeed right around the world. So I love that cultural specificity and sensitivity piece matched up with a commercial view. And lastly, I love the borrowing from really excellent techniques that we've seen in B2C. So every lunchtime as we were judging, I went down into the basement, out this Cannes sunshine, and I just walked the floor because we had tortured conversations about, is it good for B2B or is it actually just good? And I had to go and see the totality of the work that was down there, and the volume is unbelievable, but it had to compete with the best in B2C. It couldn't be enough to be a B2B campaign on its own. But this point about really intuitive technology, that's straight out of B2C, to understand how it can work in a way that requires an understanding not just of colour, but of emotion. How do we really interpret colour? It's not just as a hue, it's as an emotion, it's as an experience, it's as a feeling. So I love the fact they took some of those B2C techniques and they really made it live in a B2B environment.
Great points. So I'm going to bring you in here, Tom, if you don't mind. I'm sure you've got many to make. But if you were to...
Ruben, I have to say that the only bad thing about being on the inaugural Cannes B2B Lions jury is that Sarah and I got into terrible fights all the time.
I played very nicely. This is not true.
But actually, one of the things, and to begin to make a couple of points to your point, is the jury spent a lot of time, first ever B2B presence at Cannes this way. And so there was a precedent being set.
Yeah.
We felt a weight of responsibility.
That's absolutely true.
And the jurists took that quite seriously and talked about, to your point exactly, Sarah, we don't want to set a precedent that this is the best B2B work. We do, to an extent. But this needs to be as good as any work in any category in Cannes. And if we elevate work to a medal, to a gong, then it has to also have the potential to win in another category, and not just in B2B. And I think that was quite an aspiration and quite an aspirational statement. And we started with close to 500 entries. I think we looked at all of them. And only 2% of those got a medal. And only one got the Grand Prix, and that was Sherwin-Williams. So long-winded, but I start with the ones that the bigger the wow, the more it was worthy of a Cannes award. And the thing about the color piece is that is so strategic and integral to Sherwin-Williams as a brand. They position themselves as obsessed with color because their target audiences, whether professional or consumer, are obsessed with color. And they built an app, and is that an app or is it marketing? Is it marketing or is it a useful tool? And the answer is yes. And I think that they did such a brilliant job and made such a huge commitment to that thing, huge commitment to making that, burnishing that strategy and positioning in, and then manifesting it in speaking color. So it was, we had a lot of conversation about other worthy potential winners, but it just connected with us in so many different levels.
Yeah, and a little tidbit you gave me actually, Tom, afterwards. You said it took 3 years. There's 3 years in the making.
Yes.
And I think that's important to contextualize in terms of the commitment. That is a business commitment. It's a lot of faith being put in something, and it's where a lot of us work quarter to quarter or 12 months to 12 months, and so a commitment for 3 years is astonishing, and but the results are there, right? And we're looking at that and holding it up as something very special. Any insight into the culture of the company did you manage to get that enables that to happen? Is there anything you can offer me there?
A little, and then I'll
go.
Okay. So the cultures manifest in how they act and behave, and so that level of commitment evidences a culture. And the fact that the whole color strategy, obsession with color, they've been doing this for several years in many different ways. And I think the authenticity of what they do just comes through all of that. And so, and from what I've gathered from talking to other jurists and people actually at Sherwin-Williams and so on, is that it's that kind of a company where they, when they go in, they go all in because they believe in something. And I think that's admirable.
Yeah, I would just add to that briefly, Ruben. I think there are kind of two elements. I think they've been on a bit of a journey as a company, and they've done sort of iterations in this direction previously in the past. They've done some big event installations where they did colour mixing, digital colour mixing, but you could do it physically by hand, if that makes sense. So you've got a screen and you can mix your colour in that way. Obviously, that's kind of one-off, but you could see the development of the thinking in this execution, which is a bigger scale, but a similar idea of using very, very intuitive colour mixing. And as Tom says, I think the thing that's in common with all the campaigns that were really successful in B2B was what they did have is they really knew their audience. They knew their customers so well. They knew what their customers were thinking about at night, what was stopping them sleeping, or what their passion was. And in this case, the niche is architects. It's not even just selling paint to the general public. And so the ability to have a bespoke hue is huge, and also the idea that this is part of an entire installation in someone's mind. So getting it exactly right, this kind of 1 in a million idea.
In one of the other shows in B2B World Fest, there was this discussion about dopamine in the brain, and that humor triggers dopamine, and you like something as a result. And I don't know if this is dopamine or triggers the same thing, but there's a huge emotional, when you play with that app, and we did, literally in the jury room, you just got such a charge out of it, such an emotional charge out of it, that it triggered that affinity.
That's dopamine. That's
dopamine.
Okay, listen.
I want more of that.
I told you this would happen. Once we started talking, we would. Now, I'm going to draw a close to the discussions on that particular piece of work because I really want us to see another fascinating piece, which I think really sort of took the levels of change to a new dimension. And commitment. So can we cue the next piece, which is Pinatex, please? Yes.
Every year, over 2.5 million tons of pineapples are grown in the Philippines. While the fruit is packaged to feed people all over the world, pineapple leaves are left behind. For every ton of pineapples harvested, 3 tons of leaves are wasted, and when left to rot could create methane emissions over 20 times more harmful than CO2. To make a change, Dole, one of the largest producers of pineapples in the world, partnered with Ananasanam to produce Pinatex, a vegan, cruelty-free, and sustainable leather alternative made from the fiber of pineapple leaves that would otherwise go to waste.
If we compare Pinatex with leather, Pinatex has a much better environmental credentials. It doesn't use any water, any land, any fertilizers.
While other vegan alternatives are plastic-based and ecologically toxic, Pinatex is a sustainably sourced textile with a closed-loop production. After the rescued pineapple leaves become Pinatex, the residual leaf biomass is converted into natural fertilizer, providing a truly eco-friendly option for the fashion industry. Over 200 brands in more than 80 countries are now using Pinatex to become more sustainable, including Hugo Boss, H&M, and Nike, who use Pinatex to create their Happy Pineapple sneakers.
The Dole Ananas Anam partnership through Pinatex is the perfect way for us to breathe second life into our waste. This is the first step in our journey towards circularity, whilst helping farmers turn waste into an income opportunity.
Pinatex is part of Dole's ongoing efforts to achieve zero waste from its farms by 2025. By upcycling waste, we are creating change beyond the food industry, giving fashion brands a true green answer to leather.
So what blew my mind when I visited Cannes this year was this idea that a lot of the campaigns aren't promotional. They're great ideas that generate their own promotion through social media and sharing and news. And this idea was a byproduct of a product, the byproduct of which was amazing social promotion and news. So it really challenged my notion of what marketing is. And the project itself just shows an incredible amount of commitment from the business all the way. Now, Sarah, you told me something about that in terms of that level of commitment, in terms of the production. Could you tell us about that?
You might remember this conversation. So when we came out of the judging, obviously everything's super hush-hush until announcement. And the team came over and spoke to us, and we talked a lot about, the question most people asked of any campaign was, how did you sell that to your client? How did you convince them that the idea was good and keep the investment on the road? And one of the bits of feedback the team gave us is that actually in the development phase, it's essential that this product is completely natural. To sell the idea and be 100% authentic, and that circularity, which we hear so much about to be successful, it has to be with no plastic in. And it was a similar kind of 3-year lifespan to get it to that stage, but they got to the point where it was 80% pineapple leaves pretty fast. So they were like, we're on the right track, we're basically on the home run, and they're getting that last 20% of plastic out took them effectively another couple of years to get over the line. But it was obviously essential because the plastic is on the opposite end of the scale in terms of toxicity to the environment, as was flagged in the case study. So again, how they kept the client and the focus of Dole on board as they worked through that last 20%, which was essential to their authenticity of the product, to the ability to then sell it on and to create effectively an entire new brand. I just thought that was amazing. But you can see on the film how vested the whole team were. But nonetheless, I would struggle to keep my guys on track for something that wasn't the finished product.
Tom, did this challenge your notions of marketing as you know it?
I don't think it challenged my notions of it. I think it expanded my notions of it, and it inspired me to think more expansively and differently. And I just thought it was extraordinary that they had again, we're back to the commitment word, the commitment to do what they did and invent something that's never existed before, that does plenty of good for the world, but that also has the potential to do a lot of good for the business. And so your 5 C's, Ruben, you talked about commercial impact, and you talked about change as well as the commitment aspect of things and the craft aspect of things. Well, they've built $100 million brand in Pinatex in a fairly short period of time. You saw it evidenced in the case film, and they have great expectations that will grow and grow and grow because it's a really excellent product. And then it has all of the knock-on environmental effects and helping the local farmers and so on. And so that's pretty transformational. And I saw very quickly, I saw Simon Cook, who's the CEO of Cannes, talk about this campaign. And one of the things that was a key theme out of all of the categories in Cannes is the idea of scalable solutions. That's something that came through a lot this year at the festival. And this is a scalable solution. It solves a few things, and it's almost infinitely scalable in terms of where this could go. So, yeah, I think that it checked so many boxes, and it deserved it deserved its ranking for sure.
Mm-hmm. Are your boots made of pineapple leather?
Actually, they're not made of pineapple byproducts. They're actually made of pineapples. So if you're hungry, you can just grab a boot and you're good.
Great. So, talk about craft then, and compare the two cases, if you will. We haven't got quite a short amount of time, but I want to just because I think the two very different realms of craft. One more the type of craft we expect to see in marketing from an incredible user experience for Sherwin-Williams, and then this is something that takes craft back to its traditional roots. Craftsmanship, something leather. So we are going to have to be really brief. I'm being told in my ear here. So 30 seconds each on craft.
So I'll be super quick. I think I don't want to end on a downer, but I think craft was a tough one in this category writ large. Craft in the traditional sense of just exquisite execution that you would think would stand up next to B2C. But I think the commitment to the execution that the product had to be immaculate and perfect, and waiting until it was entirely ready to do that, is evidence perhaps of a different type of craft to how we traditionally view it, but was nonetheless 100% evident in these campaigns.
High levels of craft. I think that there were, nearly these were actually entries into the craft category. I think there were other things that we saw, Apple, Escape from the Office, and several others that probably would win on a pure craft basis compared to these, but didn't have the same power and impact.
So, in one word then, give me 2-3 words, what people need to do to make the commitment. What's your 10-second advice, Tom? Making the commitment.
They need to be super clear about what the business strategy is, and then develop the idea around it, and just invest in it, stick with it, blow it out.
Make the commercial case, have the data ready, and the creative support should follow.
Fantastic. So we can wrap it there. That was brilliant. Thank you very much to my guests. Thank you.
No way. That is the end, is it? Close to for the day?
Let it be.
I can't believe it. That is actually mission accomplished for day one of B2B World Fest here at the Drums pop-up TV studio. But thankfully, we've got lots more to come tomorrow with equally brilliant guests and everything with it.
And then we can rate day one against day two.
Yeah, we'll do that. I look forward to doing that with you at the end.
Absolutely.
Just a reminder, all of the content from today, you'll be able to get it on demand. You'll be able to get that from next week as well. So just head over to thedrum.com, look for that TV icon at the top of the page and click away.
Absolutely, good advice. They should follow it, definitely. Now, we've had a fascinating day, deep diving into B2B marketing, and the insights from our guests have been fresh and, I would say, on point, given the dynamics of the day. And also a big thank you to you, to my co-host. You've been amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you also to Stein IS for supporting today's programme, because without you, how would we be lost?
I know, it's likewise. The feeling is mutual.
It's a love in here.
And also, must pass our thanks on to the CMO steering group who've helped shape this amazing programme and all of the topics that we've done. And given all the drama that has been around with regards to rail strikes and everything else, a special thanks to all of those people in the studio today who've made it, and obviously to all you lovely people out there who are zooming in from around the world. And we very much look forward to seeing you all again to do it tomorrow. We'll sign off now with highlights of what has happened so far at World Fest.
Absolutely. Well, from us, it's good morning.
And from me, it's good evening.
And goodbye. B2B World Fest 2022.
B2B has been so much about the rational side of the brain. It's been all thinking that the way that people in business make decisions is just this sort of checkbox mentality. But we know that people make decisions based on emotions and then back it up with rationality, whether it's B2B or whether it's B2C.
And if you can make people proud of what they're doing, inner pride, they will be able to talk about why they're doing it and what they're doing. And that is communication pure.
You know, how do we kind of align and connect the dots across that experience? And the way to do that is to get the barriers broken down, the silos across those teams. But brands have got to start to consider those two teams as a growth marketing team that are aligned against what the corporate and the business strategy is, the revenue target, the growth plans.
Well, what a fantastic first day for B2B World Fest. I really hope you enjoyed it. We covered some of the biggest themes, the biggest issues. And of course, if you missed our live stream on our Pop-Up TV channel, remember, you can see all the content on our player. However, we are not tired. In fact, the opposite, we are energized. This is just as well, because we have another amazing full agenda tomorrow. So tune in. I look forward to seeing you there.